The cold trade. The cold metal doors of the spaceport opened with a loud hiss. Jaren stepped inside the auction center, his boots echoing on the steel floor. He had done many trades before, but today felt different. He was here for a special delivery. One that paid well but made his stomach twist. A guard handed him a data pad. "Your cargo's in Bay 6, the guard said. "Alien widow and her brat. Captured last week. Don't let them talk too much." Joran nodded without a word. He walked down the dim hallway passing cages and crates. The place smelled like oil, sweat, and silence. Some cages had broken robots. Others had people. Base 6 was quiet. Inside he saw them. A thin alien woman sat in the corner of the small metal cell. Her skin had a soft silver hue, like moonlight. Her long arms wrapped around a small girl, barely 5 or 6 years old. Both were shaking, dirty, and barefoot. The woman looked up as Joran entered. Her eyes, deep violet, watched him with fear. The child hid her face in her mother's chest. Joran stood still for a moment. This wasn't what he expected. They looked more like a scared family from a war zone. Not slaves. He checked the data pad. Item 6049A, widow from Serari, no known male. Item 6049B, young female offspring. Buyer, Dren Thovak. Delivery requested, within 6 days. Joran's eyes narrowed. He had heard of Dren, rich, dangerous, and cruel. He remembered hearing a story. Someone sold a young alien girl to Dren. Days later, she was found dead, dumped in space. He looked back at the mother. She was whispering something in her daughter's ear, calming her, protecting her, even in a cage. She was trying to be strong. "Open it," Joran said. The guard raised an eyebrow. "You sure? Sometimes these alien types bite." I said open it. The door opened with a creak. The woman stood slowly, holding her daughter's hand. She did not speak. Her eyes stayed on Joran. He handed her a thin blanket. "It's cold in the ship. Use this." She looked at the cloth, then at him. Her fingers trembled as she took it. The girl peeked out for the first time. Her eyes were, just like her mother's, bright violet, full of silent questions. Joran turned away and led them down the hall. Other traders stared. No one usually walked with their cargo, but Joran didn't care. On board his ship, he let them sit on a bench near the engine room. It wasn't much, but it was warm. He handed them 2 sealed food packets. "They're safe," he said. "Eat slow." The mother hesitated, then opened one. She gave the first bite to her daughter. Joran watched in silence. For some reason, his chest felt heavy. He remembered his own child. She would have been around the same age now if the sickness hadn't taken her. "Why do you help us?" the alien mother asked softly, her voice weak and cracked. Joran looked at her. "No one helped my family when we needed it," he said. She nodded. "Then, maybe we are the same." He didn't reply. He sat in the pilot seat and prepared the ship for launch. As the engines hummed to life, he stared at the destination, Dren's base. The money was good. The deal was clean, but the image of the little girl eating quietly under her mother's arm haunted him. He tapped his fingers on the console. The ship lifted off the station. Stars began to stretch across the sky, but Joran's heart did not feel light. Not this time. Not with this trade. Something inside him had started to shift. And soon, he would have to make a choice. The ship was silent, except for the soft hum of the engines. Joran sat alone in the cockpit, staring at the stars. His hands were on the controls, but his mind was far away. He could not stop thinking about the little alien girl. Her thin arms, her frightened eyes. Her tiny voice still echoed in his head. "Will he hurt us like the others?" He stood up and walked toward the back of the ship. The cargo bay was dim, lit only by one small wall light. He stopped near the door. Inside, the alien widow was curled up with her daughter, both wrapped in the thin blanket. They were fast asleep, but not peacefully. The child's small body twitched every now and then like she was still running from something in her dreams. Joren leaned against the doorframe. He remembered his own daughter's bed, soft pillows, stuffed animals, her giggles before bedtime. This child had none of that, just fear and cold metal. Then suddenly the little girl opened her eyes. She looked at Joren. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Then she whispered, "Are you going to sell us?" Joren opened his mouth, but no words came out. The mother stirred, waking up. She quickly pulled her daughter close and looked at Joren with worry. "I'm sorry," she said. "She speaks too much, she's just scared." Joren shook his head. "No, she's just honest." He walked inside and sat down, a few feet away from them. The woman didn't move. She was still afraid. "Do you have a name?" Joren asked. She hesitated, then nodded. "Sarah. My name is Sarah. My daughter is Lyra." "Sarah," he repeated slowly. "Pretty name." She looked down, unsure what to say. Joren reached into his jacket and pulled out a protein bar. He handed it to Lyra. She took it with both hands and gave a small thank you in her language. "Do you know where I'm taking you?" Joren asked Sarah quietly. Her face went pale. I've heard of Dren." Her arms tightened around Lyra. "I begged the guards not to sell us to him," she whispered. But they laughed. There was a long silence. Sarah's voice shook. "He hurts people. He breaks children." Joren stared at the floor. He knew it. He had known all along, but hearing it from her lips, it felt heavier. "They say humans are monsters," Sarah said softly. "But you gave us food, a blanket. You speak kindly. I don't understand." Joren looked up. "I don't understand myself right now," he said honestly. Another silence. Then Lyra crawled closer to him. She placed the half-eaten bar on his lap. "For you," she said shyly. He smiled a little. Something inside him cracked. He cleared his throat and stood up. "You two can sleep here, it's warmer," he said. "And safe." Sarah looked confused. "But this is your space." "It's ours now," Joren said, turning toward the cockpit. "For as long as I decide." As he walked away, Lyra whispered to her mother, "He's not like the others." Joren heard it. And for the first time in years, his heart didn't feel like cold metal. He didn't know exactly what he was going to do. But one thing was clear. He could never deliver them to that monster. The stars outside the ship drifted, slowly. Time felt still. Joren sat in the cockpit staring at the glowing screen in front of him. The ship was quiet, too quiet. Suddenly a loud ping broke the silence. A message flashed. "Incoming transmission, encrypted, priority, urgent, he." Hesitated before opening it. The screen blinked. A grainy, low-quality video appeared. The man on screen had a wide face, sharp eyes, and a cruel smile. "Dren Thovak." "Traitor Joren," Dren said, his voice cold and smooth. "My patience is thin. You have something I bought. A widow and a girl. No damage, no delays." Joren said nothing. Dren's smile faded. "I pay good money for obedience," he continued, "and I pay extra when the child's trainable. You understand what I mean?" The word trainable made Joren's blood run cold. The screen went black. No goodbye, no mercy, just a threat. Joren leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes. He felt sick. This wasn't a delivery. This was a death sentence. He stood and walked slowly to the back of the ship. Sarah was awake, sitting against the wall. Her hands were folded tightly in her lap. Lyra was asleep in her arms. Sarah looked up as he entered. Her eyes searched his face. "You heard from him," she said softly. Joren nodded. He sat across from her, keeping his voice low. He called, "Her trainable." Sarah looked away. "I know what that means," she whispered. "I've seen it." There was silence again. Joren took a deep breath. "I'm not taking you to him." Sarah's head snapped up. What? I said, I'm not delivering you. I'm changing course. Her hands trembled. But the bounty, I don't care, he said. She stared at him like he was from another world. Why would you risk everything for us? Joran shrugged. Because my daughter died 5 years ago. And for some reason, your girl reminds me of her. Same eyes, same fear, and I couldn't save mine. Sarah covered her mouth. I won't fail again, Joran said quietly. He walked back to the cockpit and opened the navigation panel. His fingers hovered over the buttons. Changing course meant breaking contract. Breaking contract meant a bounty. On his head, trouble, danger, death. He looked over his shoulder toward the small girl sleeping under a blanket. She looked peaceful for the first time since he met her. He entered new coordinates, old smuggler routes, hidden stations. No one would find them easily. The ship's voice spoke. Course updated. Estimated arrival, 3 days. Joran leaned back. Outside, the stars still shone. But inside, something had changed. He had crossed a line. He was no longer a traitor. He was a protector now. Meanwhile, far away on a luxury space station, Dren Thovak watched the black screen. He crushed the empty wine glass in his hand, the shards cutting into his palm. Blood dripped slowly. Send hunters, he hissed to his guards. Bring me the traitor, and burn everything around him. The stars outside the ship turned sharp. Joran's freighter was no longer cruising on safe trade routes. It flew low and fast through forgotten smuggler paths, places where the law didn't reach. Inside, the ship shook every now and then as it dodged gravity fields and hidden debris clouds. Sarah sat in the engine bay holding Lyra close. The girl was drawing shapes on the floor with her finger. Sarah's eyes never left the door. She knew something had changed. She could feel it in the way the engines roared. The way Joran moved faster, slept less. The way he looked over his shoulder, like someone was coming. Finally, she asked, You're running, aren't you? Joran, standing by the engine controls, nodded slowly. They're coming for us. Because of me and Lyra? She whispered. He shook his head. Because I said no. That night, the transmission came again. A public bounty notice, Joran Ryle. Wanted. For breach of contract, theft of property, and harboring alien fugitives. Reward, 100,000 credits. Alive or dead. Sarah read it on the screen. She touched his arm. They'll never stop. Joran replied, Neither will I. Hours later, alarms blared. Tracking signal detected. Hostile ship approaching. Joran ran to the cockpit and looked at the radar. One red dot, fast, armed, and getting closer. He slammed his fist on the console. No way to outrun it. Sarah appeared behind him. What do we do? Joran didn't answer. Instead, he stood and pulled out a small silver capsule from a locked case. He opened a floor panel and loaded it into the emergency pod system. He turned to Sarah. You and Lyra are getting out of here. What? No. This pod will take you to an old mining station. Abandoned. No one will find you there. I'll lead the hunter away. Sarah's voice cracked. You'll die. Joran knelt in front of her and placed a hand on Lyra's head. She called me good last night in her sleep. No one's called me that in years. He looked up at Sarah. Let me be good. Just once. The enemy ship came closer. Joran powered down everything except life support. The ship floated like a ghost, quiet and cold. In the darkness, he helped Sarah and Lyra into the escape pod. Lyra hugged him tightly. Will I see you again? He forced a smile. You better believe it. He sealed the pod and hit the launch button. With a soft boom, the pod shot out and disappeared into the black. A minute later, bright lights lit up his ship. A voice echoed through the radio. Traitor Joran, you're worth a lot. Let's not make this harder. Joran grinned, flicked every switch and launched the ship into full speed, right into an asteroid field. On the hidden mining station, Sarah stepped out of the pod, holding her daughter. She looked up at the stars, eyes full of tears. Lyra squeezed her hand. Mama, he didn't sell us. No, Sarah whispered. He saved us. Joran's ship limped through the black void, its engines flickering. He had escaped the hunter. Barely. The asteroids had helped, but now his ship was damaged, low on fuel and leaving a smoke trail behind him like blood in the water. He wasn't safe. He was being hunted. Inside, sparks fell from a broken panel. Alarms blinked red. The air was getting thin, but Joran smiled through the pain. Sarah and Lyra were safe. That was all that mattered. On the silent mining station, Sarah worked to keep the small shelter warm. The place was old, dusty, and powered by backup solar cells, but it had a roof, water, and heat. Lyra played near the door with some wires she found, pretending they were dolls. Every few hours, Sarah climbed to the top platform to scan the stars. She kept whispering, "Come back, come back." Joran landed his ship on a hidden moon base. It was dead quiet, an old pirate repair site he used years ago. The droid mechanic barely worked, but it was enough. He patched up the main engine and recharged the shields. But as he moved through the repair bay, he noticed something that made his heart freeze. A tracker beacon, small, nearly invisible, hidden under his main control board. That's how they found him. He crushed it under his boot. But it was too late. The sky above the moon lit up as two ships dropped from hyperspace. Fast, armed. Hunters. They wasted no time. The first blast hit the side of his ship, throwing him against the wall. Joran grabbed his old pulse rifle and ran out of the hatch, coughing from the smoke. He ducked behind crates, returning fire. He was outnumbered, outgunned, and exhausted. A voice called out from above. "Joran Ryle, surrender. The girl isn't worth your life." Joran gritted his teeth. He raised his rifle again and shouted, "She's worth more than mine." He fired until the gun clicked empty. Then silence. His body slumped behind a crate, blood running from his shoulder. He didn't know if he would wake up again, but in his last thought he saw Lyra's little smile, and it was enough. Back on the mining station, Sarah jolted awake from a deep sleep. Something was wrong. She looked at the stars and felt it in her bones. Lyra stirred. "Mama?" Sarah picked her up and whispered, "We need to go." She didn't know why, but her heart screamed it. But just before she stepped outside, a distant ping echoed on the old radio. She ran back. The screen blinked. Broadcast detected. Moonbase, 74. Life sign. Found. One life sign. Weak. Fading. But it was him. Her hands trembled. She looked at Lyra. "Your papa's alive." The moonbase was quiet again. Smoke floated in the air like ghostly fingers. Fires crackled softly. Wreckage from 2 hunter ships littered the landing field, and Joran was still breathing. Barely. His left arm didn't move. His leg was pinned under a broken crate. His vision was blurred. Blood had dried on his face. He thought he would die here. But somewhere in the pain, a small voice whispered, "She's worth more than me." Joran closed his eyes and waited, but far above something moved. A stolen shuttle, old but fast, broke from the shadows of a drifting asteroid. Sarah sat in the pilot seat, her hands tight on the controls, her face pale, her heart racing. Lyra sat beside her, holding a small flashlight like it was a sword. "Do you think he's really down there?" the child asked. Sarah nodded. "I feel him." She didn't know how to fly, but she knew how to land, sort of. The shuttle slammed into the moon base with a rough skid. Dust flew everywhere. Lyra screamed, but they were alive. Sarah kicked open the hatch. "Joran," she called into the dark. No answer. Only the soft beeping of a damaged emergency beacon. She ran toward the noise, Lyra chasing behind. Then, she saw him, half buried. Still. Bloody. "Joran." She dropped beside him and touched his face. His eyes opened slowly. "Sarah? What are you doing here?" She laughed and cried at the same time. You idiot, she said. You were supposed to live. He smiled weakly. I was trying. Together, she pulled him free. It took all her strength. Her arms shook, her legs ached, but she refused to stop. They reached the shuttle and loaded him inside. The engines groaned as Sarah hit the launch. Come on. Just one more trip, she begged the ship. It lifted. Barely. In the med bay of the mining station, Lyra placed a warm cloth on Joran's forehead. You came back for me, he whispered. Sarah leaned close. No. This time. We came for you, he smiled and closed his eyes. Later, Joran stood at the top of the station, wrapped in bandages, watching the stars. He heard footsteps behind him. It was Lyra. She held something small in her hand. A rough stone, shaped like a heart. I found it, she said. It's for you. He took it slowly. Why? She looked up at him and said something simple. Because you're my family now. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by rusted walls and a cold sky, Joran realized he didn't need a home. He had already found one. 3 weeks passed. The hidden mining station was no longer cold and forgotten. Warm lights now filled the halls. Blankets hung like curtains over doorways. A small garden of roots and herbs grew near the air vents. Lyra had even painted stars on the walls with colored dust. It wasn't much, but it was home. Joran walked with a slow limp now, his arm still in a sling. The wounds would heal, some already had. But the change inside him, that would stay forever. In the early morning, Sarah stood by the heating unit, preparing tea made from dried alien leaves. She wore a soft shawl that Joran found in storage. Her face was calm, peaceful. Lyra ran in, laughing, a cloth tied around her neck like a hero's cape. Joran stood in the doorway watching them. Morning, he said. Lyra ran to him and hugged his leg. You're late for breakfast. He knelt and smiled. Blame my slow human legs. She giggled and raced away. Sarah handed him a warm cup. Their fingers touched briefly. No words were spoken. But something passed between them. Trust, comfort, and something more. Later that day, Joran found an old crate of tools and started fixing a broken solar panel. Lyra sat nearby, watching curiously. Are we safe now? She asked. Joran paused. He looked up at the sky. No one's found us. And no one will. Not here, she thought, for a moment. Will you leave someday? He looked at her. Really looked. No, he said. I think I already left everything behind. She smiled wide. Good, because Mama said she has something to tell you. That evening, after Lyra had fallen asleep, Sarah sat beside Joran on the roof platform. The stars shimmered above, endless and quiet. For a long while, neither of them spoke. Then Sarah said, You saved us, even when you didn't have to. Joran took a breath. I think I needed saving too. She nodded. You're not a traitor anymore. No, he said softly. I think I'm something better. She turned to him. Do you know what Lyra calls you now? What? She calls you Papa when she thinks I'm not listening. Joran's chest tightened. Sarah placed a gentle hand over his. She's not wrong. He looked into her eyes. And you? She smiled, soft and full of light. You are the only man I'd ever choose to call family. The stars kept shining. In the middle of nowhere, on a dead mining rock where no one was supposed to live, a human, an alien widow, and her daughter had built something the galaxy had forgotten how to value. A home. A bond. A family. Not bought. Not sold. But chosen. Forever.